Just you brought up things I've said and things that I've done.
Right. She's saying
That feels like blame.
The sound of a phone buzzing on a kitchen counter in Flagstaff can change the entire mood of a day. And according to insiders, that's exactly what happened when Kody Brown's screen lit up with a message he allegedly wasn't expecting. One that, rumor has it, carried a number big enough to make even him stop mid-sentence. The word Backpay wasn't splashed in neon, but it might as well have been. Sources claim the message referred to a Season 19 adjustment, an accounting move tied to past appearances and contractual fine print that suddenly demanded attention. What made it sting more, whispers say, was the implication that money might need to move back into the hands of people no longer part of his daily life. One of those people, Meri Brown, was nowhere near that Flagstaff kitchen when the buzz hit. She was reportedly across town, maybe even across state lines, going about her own business with the kind of calm that only comes from knowing your side of the street is spotless. Insiders suggest that when word finally reached her, she didn't flinch, frown, or raise her voice. Instead, she allegedly let out a small, knowing laugh before delivering the now infamous two words, balance due. No drama, no grand performance, just the quiet confidence of someone who's been keeping meticulous track all along. Friends close to Meri, speaking off the record, paint a picture of a woman who long ago stopped waiting for fairness to arrive on someone else's schedule. Ever since her split from Kody became permanent, she's been her own archivist. Emails saved, receipts filed, dates highlighted. Nothing speculative here. Meri has always said publicly that she's focused on her own lane. But the way insiders tell it, those private files might now be the backbone of her calm, the reason she can respond to potential payouts with a smile instead of a scramble. Meanwhile, the mood allegedly could not have been more different inside Kody's orbit. Sources whisper about pacing, rapid-fire calls, and a search for clarity that seemed to grow more frantic as the afternoon wore on.
There is a guy who says, I'd be interested in getting to know you. Okay, well then make the steps to make that happen.
The notion of Season 19 funds being recalculated, especially if it meant redistributing appearance fees to wives no longer living under his roof, was not a conversation he wanted to have. The whispers suggest a mix of shock and frustration, the kind of cocktail that makes a man look for someone to blame, even if the numbers are just numbers. And yet, while Kody was allegedly running the emotional gauntlet, Meri's camp was as still as a pond. No racing heartbeats, no performative outrage, just a short, polite acknowledgement that sounded less like a demand and more like a simple statement of fact. But if this balance due moment was so casual for her, the bigger question becomes, casual because she didn't need the money, or casual because she knew deep down that the money was already hers to claim? And that's where things start to get messy, because if she's right, that calm might not just be confidence, it might be victory. The thing about reality TV paychecks is they rarely arrive with the simplicity of a 9-to-5 direct deposit. Insiders claim that for a long time, the Sister Wives cast operated under a family rate system, one lump payment from the network, sliced into pieces for each adult, regardless of who carried the heavier storyline. It sounded fair in theory, but as the family fractured and separate households emerged, rumor has it the structure quietly evolved. Appearance fees began to match screen time, confessional days were tracked more carefully, even the number of group scenes each person participated in allegedly started to matter. And tucked into those newer agreements, clauses about adjustments, what industry folks casually call true-ups, that can surface months after filming ends. This is where the term Backpay starts to get interesting. Sources whisper that the Season 19 reconciliation may have involved tallying up each cast member's exact contribution, then recalculating final payouts based on actual work performed. For some, that could mean a little bonus. For others, especially if they'd taken advances against future filming days, it could mean a smaller final check, or even owing money back. Allegedly, the paperwork for these adjustments can run dozens of pages, and the math isn't always straightforward. The speculative part, and where the drama brews, is in how this recalculation might land in a post-split world.
So we had a lot of places that money needed to go that weren't always Janelle's business.
If Meri, Christine, and Janelle each filmed more days than initially expected, or if their footage boosted viewership in certain key episodes, insiders say they could be entitled to a bigger share of the season's final pot. That money would have to come from somewhere, and according to whispers, Cody's and Robin's household already had their slice spent in advance on day-to-day living and long-term expenses. Fans who have followed the family's financial history know this isn't the first time math has turned personal. Allegedly, past disagreements over property splits and debt repayments have left old wounds barely healed, but this situation feels different because it isn't about real estate, it's about work already done, caught on camera, signed off by producers, and broadcast to the world. It's hard to argue over something that exists in an episode archive, Adding to the intrigue, production companies sometimes bundle residual adjustments with future season negotiations. That means any lingering disputes over season 19's numbers could bleed into talks for season 20. If one party is holding out for their balance due, they could, in theory, have leverage over whether or not they agree to come back or on what terms. It's no wonder then that sources say Kody's phone has been busy. Trying to unravel how the money moves isn't just about clearing up one accounting email, it's about controlling the narrative before it leaks to fans, who by now can sniff out tension faster than any insider blog. But the real kicker? If this Backpay shakeup favors the ex-wives, it could rewrite the financial hierarchy that's existed since the show's early days and force Kody to admit that life after the splits means more than just empty chairs at the dinner table. And that's where Meri's mysterious calm starts to look less like detachment and more like quiet anticipation. Meri Brown's reaction to the alleged Backpay news might seem effortless, but according to those close to her, that ease wasn't born overnight. It was built, piece by piece, in the years since she stepped away from Kody's household. Long before whispers of season 19 adjustments started circulating, Meri had already mastered the art of the meticulous paper trail. Friends say she's the type to download every contract the moment it lands in her inbox, save it in 2 separate folders, and print a hard copy just in case. Emails are archived, text confirmations screenshotted, and every filming day is marked in her planner with a neat checkmark. Insiders claim this habit isn't about paranoia, it's about self-preservation. Once the marriage is dissolved, Meri knew the only person protecting her interests was herself. And when you're navigating a world where contracts shift, filming schedules change, and payouts can arrive months after the work is done, having receipts isn't just smart, it's survival. That's why, rumor has it, when she allegedly heard about a balance due from season 19, her calm came from knowing the numbers were already sitting in her files, waiting to be confirmed.
But Janelle was doing the bookkeeping, so some of the bills to be paid by all of us were supposed to be paid by her.
This approach stands in stark contrast to the chaos some believe swirls around Kody's current household. While sources say his focus is often split between personal matters and the next big plan, Meri's post-split lifestyle has been laser-focused on structure and independence. She's invested in her own ventures, kept her overhead lean, and according to whispers, built a rhythm that doesn't depend on unpredictable pay cycles from the show. So if season 19's recalculation does land in her favor, it's not a lifeline, it's simply what she's owed. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Production contracts, industry insiders say, often include clauses about disputes being settled through arbitration or mediation before they ever hit a courtroom. That means the most powerful position you can hold isn't necessarily having the loudest voice, it's having the clearest proof. And in this alleged scenario, Meri's organized archive may carry more weight than any emotional plea. Those who've worked with her over the years describe a woman who rarely reacts in the heat of the moment. Instead, she observes, takes notes, and responds when the time is right. That's why her balance due quip lands with such precision. It's not sarcasm, it's not bait. It's the verbal equivalent of sliding a neatly labeled folder across a table and letting the silence do the rest. If the whispers are true, and the Backpay discussion turns into a formal review of season 19's deliverables, Meri won't need to reconstruct her case from memory. Every email, call sheet, and filming note is allegedly ready to go. And that's what makes her so dangerous in this game, not because she's fighting for the money, but because she might already have the win in her pocket. And yet, while Meri holds her cards steady, there's another player in this drama, whose household could be thrown into total disarray if those recalculated numbers start shrinking their side of the pie. If there's one place where whispers of a season 19 Backpay adjustment could cause immediate stress, insiders say it's inside Robin's household. The couple's Flagstaff home, with its sprawling layout and not-so-modest upkeep, isn't exactly running on spare change. Between a sizable mortgage, property taxes, utilities, and the everyday expenses of raising children, sources claim that every dollar in Cody and Robin's shared budget has a purpose before it even hits their account. That's why, rumor has it, the idea of money flowing back to the ex-wives, not just as a symbolic gesture, but as a contractual obligation, might feel like more than just a financial inconvenience. Friends close to the situation allege that Kody has long relied on careful cash juggling to keep his and Robin's lifestyle comfortable. Advances from filming days, appearance fees, and lump payments from the network allegedly get allocated with a mix of immediacy and optimism, covering short-term needs while betting on future episodes or seasons to fill in the gaps. But when those future funds are suddenly trimmed because a recalculation diverts money elsewhere, it's not just a smaller paycheck, it's a hole in a budget that may have already been spent on last month's commitments. What complicates matters further is the speculation about how those adjustments are calculated. Industry insiders say that in ensemble reality shows, the final payout pot is often finite. If one person's share grows after reconciliation, someone else's must shrink. And if the whispers are true that Meri, Christine, and even Janelle logged more usable footage than initially predicted, that could mean Cody and Robin's portion gets shaved to cover the difference. Allegedly, it's not a case of the network coughing up extra funds, it's a reshuffle of the original pool. Sources close to production insist none of this has been confirmed publicly, but the private reaction inside Cody's circle reportedly swings between frustration and urgency. Friends describe him as a man who prides himself on controlling the moving parts of his life, and when the math suddenly changes, it's like someone yanked a lever without warning. Robin, for her part, is said to be focused on stability, keeping the household calm, shielding the kids from tension, and quietly urging Cody to work it out with production before it spirals further. Fans online have their own theories, with some suggesting this could be a turning point in how the remaining marriage is perceived on screen. If viewers sense that Cody's panic is tied not to losing the money itself, but to losing control over where it goes, it could add yet another layer of tension to an already delicate public image.
So I got to this child custody thing, and I just started getting creative about it because it's like, well, what do I just don't know what to do.
And while Cody and Robin may be scrambling behind the scenes, there's another ex-wife whose financial footing and emotional steadiness makes her an intriguing counterpoint to all this chaos. She may not be in the market for a fight, but if her season 19 role earned her a piece of that back pay, she might just take it with a smile and still sleep soundly at night. Kody Brown has been living what fans like to call her happily ever after phase. New marriage, new home, new adventures, and on the surface, she seems far removed from the tangled financial webs of her past. But insiders whisper that no matter how many miles she's put between herself and Flagstaff, her history with the show means her name is still on certain contracts. And in the world of reality television, that means residual obligations and benefits can follow you long after you filmed your last confessional. Sources allege that Christine, while not actively chasing drama, is no stranger to how these deals work. She's reportedly been careful to meet her contractual commitments, whether that's sitting for interviews, attending group events, or delivering storyline segments that production can actually use. Even if she filmed less than in past seasons, her participation in pivotal episodes, especially those featuring major family milestones or confrontations, could boost her value in the season's overall package. And if season 19's reconciliation process is truly happening, rumor has it Christine could be owed a proportional slice of whatever final adjustment is on the table. Here's where it gets especially interesting. If Christine receives that payout, it's not just money in her bank account, it's a precedent. Industry insiders say once a show distributes Backpay under certain terms, it becomes harder for them to deny similar adjustments in the future. That means Christine's success in this alleged scenario could ripple into future seasons, giving all cast members, past and present, a stronger position to request accurate reconciliations. And if those reconciliations benefit multiple ex-wives at once, it could mark the first time in years that Christine, Meri, and Janelle find themselves aligned on a financial front. Christine's own demeanor makes this speculation all the more compelling. Fans see her as grounded, pragmatic, and unbothered by Cody's moods. She's been open about moving on emotionally, which makes the idea of her calmly cashing a network-issued check, no grandstanding, no bitterness, all the more satisfying for her supporters. Insiders say this is part of her strength. She doesn't need the drama to get the result. She can play the long game, let the system work in her favor, and enjoy her life while the numbers work themselves out. For Cody, however, the optics of Christine benefiting financially from a season where she's mostly an ex-wife on the periphery could be maddening. Rumor has it he sees participation as a measure of loyalty. If you're not in the family day-to-day, why should you reap the rewards? But contracts don't measure loyalty. They measure deliverables, and Christine, by all accounts, has delivered exactly what she was asked to. If the whispers are true, Christine's potential back pay isn't a fluke. It's the natural outcome of a system that values contribution over sentiment. And that's a system that might quietly tilt the scales away from Cody's control and toward the independence of his former wives. But if Christine is the picture of calm pragmatism, there's another ex-wife who takes business first to an even more meticulous level. Someone who, when faced with a financial equation, boils it down to 3 words: the math don't lie. Janelle Brown has never been one for theatrics. Where others might stew in frustration or lace their words with pointed sarcasm, she's the type to sit at a kitchen table, whether it's hers or a friend's, with a calculator, a notepad, and a clear head. Friends say that even in the most tangled chapters of her life with Cody, she kept her compass pointed toward facts and figures. That's why insiders aren't surprised that, in the midst of these whispers about a season 19 Backpay shakeup, Janelle's alleged stance has been simple: what was promised, what was delivered, and what is owed. Nothing more, nothing less. Sources close to her claim that Janelle approaches these conversations the way she's approached her entire post-Kody life, with a calm insistence on fairness. If she's entitled to more, she'll take it without apology. If she isn't, she won't waste time chasing it. This kind of mindset, rumor has it, makes her both less reactive and far more effective in dealing with production. People who work on reality sets often say they'd rather hash out numbers with someone who knows their worth than with someone whose emotions cloud the discussion. But just because Janelle keeps her cool doesn't mean she isn't strategic. Insiders whisper that she's asked specific, grounded questions, requests for line-by-line tallies of her filming days, her on-camera participation, and any extra segments she recorded outside the main shoot. Allegedly, she wants to see the math in black and white, not hear a vague explanation over the phone. And when Janelle says the math don't lie, it's not a catchphrase, it's a principle. Her pragmatism also means she's unlikely to be swayed by guilt or pressure. If reallocating funds from season 19 means a smaller check for Cody and Robin, sources suggest that won't weigh heavily on her decision-making. In her view, business is business. That's a perspective many fans, especially those who've navigated their own divorces or business splits, find refreshingly relatable. It's not about punishing anyone, it's about ensuring that the numbers reflect the reality of the work done. The potential ripple effect of Janelle's involvement is significant. If production is required to provide her with detailed financials, that same information could support Meri's and Christine's positions. Suddenly, the Backpay discussion isn't happening in isolated conversations, it's forming a united front of former wives, who each have their own case but share a common demand: accuracy. Of course, the idea of 3 ex-wives simultaneously pressing for more money is exactly the kind of situation that could push Kody toward what insiders describe as his defensive mode, the one where every request feels like an attack and every negotiation feels personal. But if the numbers are what they are, Janelle's quiet insistence on transparency might leave him with little room to maneuver. And while the ex-wives may be focusing on fairness, there's another layer to this story, one that involves how production itself operates, how payments get processed, and why the timing of these reconciliations can turn already strained relationships into full-blown standoffs. To understand why a Backpay situation could land months after the cameras stop rolling, you have to look at the moving parts behind reality TV production. Insiders who've worked in the industry say the shooting schedule is only the first half of the puzzle. The rest happens in offices far from Flagstaff, where hours of raw footage are reviewed, storylines are pieced together, and contracts are matched against what actually made it to air. This is where adjustments, often buried under terms like final reconciliation or true-up, quietly come to life. Rumor has it that in a show like Sister Wives, where filming spans multiple states, shifting family dynamics, and unpredictable access to certain cast members, the accounting process isn't just about tallying hours worked. It's about weighing which scenes are essential, which confessionals drive the narrative, and which unexpected moments end up defining a season. If someone who is supposed to have a minimal presence ends up in several pivotal episodes, their contract might entitle them to more than their initial payout projected. The corporate clock doesn't always run in sync with the family's needs. Networks, especially those under large parent companies, often work on quarterly or even annual accounting cycles. That means a payment adjustment from season 19 could be processed well after the finale airs, particularly if the show was also licensed to a streaming platform. Allegedly, when episodes migrate online or are included in international packages, additional revenue can trigger contract clauses tied to distribution. Those clauses aren't always straightforward. They might require multiple approvals, legal reviews, and in some cases, renegotiation if there's disagreement over interpretation. This lag can create awkward timing. Imagine being months into a new chapter of your life, new home, new relationships, only to get an email saying the money you were paid last year is being recalculated. For someone like Kody, who allegedly plans his household budget around the show's payouts, the delay could mean scrambling to cover expenses that were already banked against the original figure. For ex-wives like Meri, Christine, and Janelle, who now run separate lives, the delay might be less disruptive, but still sparks questions. Why now? How was this number decided? And does it match the work logged? Insiders whisper that production companies don't enjoy these Backpay conversations any more than the cast does. Every adjustment is a reminder of how messy ensemble contracts can be, especially when the cast's personal relationships are fractured. There's also the optics factor. If word of the recalculation leaks before it's finalized, fans start speculating about favoritism, financial mismanagement, or even punishment disguised as accounting. The longer the numbers stay in limbo, the more room there is for suspicion to grow. And with a fan base as invested and vocal as Sister Wives viewers, that suspicion can easily turn into public pressure, which raises the stakes for everyone involved. Because once the audience believes there's money drama brewing, they'll be watching for signs in every smile, every interview, every carefully worded Instagram caption. And speaking of signs, if Kody really did feel the floor shift under him when this alleged Backpay email hit, the next phase wasn't just about math. It was about panic, silence, and trying to find a way to rewrite the ending before it reached the public. According to those who've watched him navigate a crisis before, Kody Brown has a tell, an almost restless energy that kicks in when something catches him off guard. Insiders whisper that the alleged Season 19 Backpay news triggered exactly that mode. Phones lighting up, texts flying, quick calls to anyone who might offer either answers or reassurance. It wasn't the kind of problem that could be solved with a single conversation, but rumor has it, Kody still tried. Dialing producers, longtime crew contacts, even distant family allies in hopes that someone could give him a way to make the numbers bend in his favor. The whispers get more pointed here. Some claim Kody's initial reaction wasn't disbelief so much as resistance, questioning how the figures were calculated, pushing back on the idea that funds owed to other cast members should reduce his household's take-home. It's the kind of reaction that makes sense when you're used to steering the ship. But this time, the waters were charted long ago, and the map, those signed contracts, wasn't in his hands to redraw. Meanwhile, Meri's side of the story couldn't have looked more different. Sources allege she didn't return any frantic calls from Kody that day, not out of spite, but because she simply didn't need to. She wasn't living under the same roof, wasn't tethered to his budget, and wasn't in the habit of negotiating her worth over the phone. Her calm, clipped, balanced-due response had already been delivered, and as far as she was concerned, the matter would play out where it belonged, between her and the production office. It's that contrast that has fans leaning in. On one side, a man allegedly pacing through a Flagstaff kitchen, searching for a lifeline. On the other, a woman miles away, going about her day with a quiet certainty that her paperwork speaks louder than any late-night conversation could. Insiders say this difference in approach isn't new. It's a dynamic that's played out in smaller ways for years. The split just made the gap impossible to ignore. Adding to the tension is the perception that this isn't just about one payment. If Kody is indeed feeling cornered by the idea of funds being redirected, it could signal a deeper fear, one that every future season's payouts might follow the same pattern. That's a long-term shift in financial power, one that no amount of charm or persuasion can undo once the precedent is set. And yet, Meri's stillness makes her presence even heavier in this narrative. She doesn't have to shout to be heard, she doesn't have to rush to be first in line. If the numbers land the way she expects, she wins without breaking a sweat. And if they don't, she's still not the one scrambling to fill the gap. But while Kody wrestles with the possibility of losing ground, the outside world is already starting to pick up on the scent of money drama. And once the fandom catches wind, the narrative can spin faster than anyone inside the family can control. The Sister Wives fandom has a knack for reading between the lines, and it didn't take long for whispers about a Season 19 payout shakeup to start seeping into the public conversation. Reddit threads lit up with speculation, some half-joking, some striking uncomfortably close to the mark, about who might be owed money, how much, and whether this was a one-off adjustment or the start of a new normal. Instagram fan pages began posting side-by-side shots of the ex-wives looking relaxed and content against older clips of Kody in mid-argument, captioning them with pointed phrases like, "Calm is the new currency," and "Balance, it's not just financial." Even without confirming a single detail, Meri, Christine, and Janelle seem to know how to let the speculation do the work for them. None of them posted anything overt about contracts or payments, but their feeds became quiet masterclasses in soft power communication. A photo of Meri at a cozy brunch with friends, Christine sharing a sunny backyard moment with her new husband, Janelle talking about budgeting for a home project. On the surface, they were just snapshots of everyday life, but to fans already invested in the Backpay rumor, they read like subtle victory laps. Meanwhile, the posts, or lack thereof, coming from Cody and Robin's side of the aisle only added fuel to the theories. Sources say Robin prefers to stay out of direct social media skirmishes, but in the absence of upbeat updates, the silence itself began to feel like a statement. Fans, ever eager to fill in blanks, speculated that the quiet was strategic, keeping any whiff of financial stress away from the public eye until it could be managed behind closed doors. Podcasters and YouTube commentators, many of them longtime observers of the Brown family, were quick to seize on the narrative. Episodes dissected the timing of the alleged adjustment, floated theories about which contract clauses might be in play, and drew parallels to past disputes over property and income distribution. Even when hosts reminded their listeners that none of this was confirmed, the sheer repetition of the storyline kept it alive and kept fans combing through every new post for evidence. The real power of this soft pressure campaign is that it doesn't require the ex-wives to say a word about the situation. By keeping their tone upbeat and their focus on personal growth, they present a stark visual contrast to the idea of Kody in financial panic. It's a contrast the fandom is more than happy to highlight, meme, and amplify. Insiders note that this dynamic, public positivity from one side, perceived defensiveness from the other, has shaped the family's media image before. But this time, with money potentially at the center, the stakes feel higher. In the court of public opinion, a calm Instagram post can be as powerful as a signed contract, and the longer the official silence lasts, the more room there is for fan-driven narratives to cement themselves as the truth in people's minds. And if the timing of all this chatter coincides with an upcoming on-camera reunion, it could mean that what's been brewing quietly online is about to step into the spotlight for the whole world to see. Picture the reunion taping day, a set that's been the backdrop for countless heart-to-hearts, tears, and blow-ups, now feeling heavier than usual. The semicircle of chairs is in place, the lighting warm but clinical, and somewhere behind the cameras, producers shuffle their notes. According to whispers from the set, everyone walked in knowing the air was thick, not with unresolved romantic drama this time, but with the quiet hum of money talk. Nobody wanted to address directly. Kody takes his seat, posture straight, but eyes darting like a man bracing for an impact he can't quite predict. Robin sits beside him, face composed, though the tension in her clasped hands is hard to miss. Across the space, Meri is poised and still, offering a polite smile that doesn't invite follow-up questions. Christine's energy is warm but resolute, and Janelle's expression says she's already done the math and knows her position cold. Insiders claim the word Backpay never crosses anyone's lips during the early minutes of filming, but the undercurrent is impossible to ignore. Questions about Season 19's highlights drift just close enough to stir the pot without tipping it over. Fans who eventually watch the edited version may never see the subtle glances, the long blinks, or the moments when the conversation veers toward accountability before pivoting away. But those who were in the room say it was all there, simmering quietly under the surface. When the topic of contributions comes up, how much each person was involved, how they balanced personal boundaries with contractual obligations, it's Meri's turn to speak. She doesn't raise her voice or embellish her answer. Instead, she leans slightly forward, delivers her line, "I did my part," and lets the silence fill the gap. For those who followed the rumors, it's hard not to hear those words as the unspoken echo of her earlier balance due remark. Kody shifts in his seat, jaw tight. Robin offers a small nod as if trying to move the moment along. Christine and Janelle exchange quick, knowing glances, but no one pushes further. Whatever the Backpay truth is, it won't be confirmed here. Not on this couch, not with the cameras rolling. And maybe that's the point. The power of the moment isn't in the numbers themselves, but in who can sit with the silence without flinching. By the time the day wraps, everyone has smiled for the group shot, said their polite goodbyes, and retreated to their own corners. But for those watching from the outside, the question lingers, was this just another season wrap, or the quiet closing chapter of a financial story still unfolding behind closed doors? And that's where we leave it, with a balance sheet no one's seen, a set of contracts only a few people truly understand, and a family that knows the value of both the dollars and the drama they bring. So, what do you think? Was Meri's calm just confidence, or does she know something the rest of us don't? And if there is a balance due, will it quietly change the way this family does business forever? Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't want to miss it.